Okay, so I realize I went quite quickly through the layout of Premiere in the first tutorial, so let's just look at that again. You want to have your project over here where you manage your media. I can make new folders by right-clicking and make a new bin there. Just remember, they're called bins in editing. There's my movies that I've imported. And I've selected a number of clips from a few down on the timeline here. And I've got source, effects, effects controls, and program. That's important. So effects and effects controls are different, but they work the same as in After Effects. The effects is where you browse all the different effects you can put on your video, and the effects control is where you control those effects. And by default, a clip on your timeline, like this one here, that I'm looking at over here, I've got scale, position in X and Y, X, Y, and I can also mask that. We've got masking capabilities, etc., etc. But we're not going to go into that now. All I'm going to look at now is, let's look at these clips on my timeline. Actually, before we do that, let's just look at, as you know, in all Adobe software, you can move. I could grab that effects and put it here. So make sure you're familiar with how you can move things around. I like to keep my project here, my source monitor here, the monitor by which I browse my source media, and my program monitor over here. That's how most editors work. And I like to keep my effects controls and effects over here, but you can keep them over here if you'd rather. You can put them in there. So I've got source, program, up to you. And then you can save your workspace. So I could go save new workspace or save changes to this workspace. I'll do that. And at any time you get lost, you can go into workspaces and go back to your old workspace. Okay, so let's go put them back over there. Okay, so let's look at this clip here, which is this one we're looking at there. It's got audio. If I go into my media and I double click on that clip, you'll see I've selected the in and out points here. So I can move like that. I can move those in and out points to zoom in on them. Same plus minus to zoom in. And I can redefine those in and out points just using I and O. Or I can drag them. And then I drag that clip to the timeline. So I've dragged it on top of the old clip. Let's delete the old one. And I've got audio and video. An audio channel and a video channel. And the one on top is going to be the one I see. So that's going to cut there and like that. Same principle as After Effects. But in editing, you have usually it's pretty desirable because you may end up with a very busy amount of stuff here to keep things from going to too many layers because we get quite confused. Now here, this button's important, this linked selection button. If by default, it links my video and my audio here. But I can also unlink that, and I could say delete the audio now from the other two clips. I've got a clip from this movie here, which I'm just going to scale up a bit. I've got a clip from this movie, and then I've got a clip from this movie. That's a bit too small, that one, so I'll scale that one up as well to fill my 1920 by 1080 workspace there. Now I can drag the audio because it's unlinked. I can drag the audio from the first clip to be the audio for all clips. So now when I drag through, I've got the audio from the one clip covering all three. So I'd like everyone to make a little edit if you like, and you can also just import audio files in here exactly as you would video files, drag them to the audio channels and create your edit. I can do crossfades, I can do fade in, fade out. We can do more sort of how to use Premiere, but at the moment I just want to focus before we get any further into Premiere. I'd like you just to be able to import video, bring it to the timeline, understand the workspace. It's very easy to learn. Don't be intimidated by Premiere. It's you can learn how to use it pretty well in 10 minutes. It's not a difficult software to use. So now what if I wanted to put some sort of animation on this, and I wanted to work between After Effects and Premiere? So I've got a couple of options. I could bring this Premiere project into, I'm going to change the name of that sequence to cut 1. I could import this into my After Effects project. Say I'm in After Effects and I've made this little logo thing. I've made this little spinning objects, and I want to bring these two together. I could go import. Let's go File, Import. I'll show you a few different ways we could look at it. I could go to my Premiere project, exercise 1 there. That's the Premiere project we were just looking at. This one here. Import that into here, and it's going to ask me, okay, do you want me to bring which sequence? I'll say cut 1, that first sequence. There it is, and you see it's actually got a link on it. So if I drag that down there, I've got that happening there. And I could change this edit. What if I dropped a shot right in between there? Let's just change something in Premiere, like if I go and edit something in here, edit original. It's taking me back. I'll do that again. So I selected the project and I went Command E or edit original. It took me back into Premiere, and now I'm gonna, where was it? Maybe I'll switch these around. I'll put oops, come on, put that one there, and I'll put this one at the beginning. Save. Now it should update in here. Yes. So you can work that way. Or alternatively, I usually don't work that way, but you can work that way. I'm going to delete that. Or alternatively, I could do it the other way around. I could say, oh, what if I import the After Effects project into the Premiere project? I'm going to get something similar. It's going to ask me which composition do I want to bring in. Here it goes. So, okay, it's comp 1, right? Let's just double. Before I'll do that again, let's change the name of it. Let's call it spinning circles. Save. Now I'll import that into here. Spinning circles. That's the comp I want to bring in, right? There it is. Now I can drag that to the timeline, and it's going to. Everything's going to play a little slower now because I've got that red line now in Premiere. Turn the volume down a bit. So you could do it that way. You can also render video and just bring your video in. That's often how I personally like to work, because I like to do it sort of, depending how long my project is, I might want to just render out of here. Let's say I want to render, how many seconds do I want? Let's say it's 7 seconds of that. I might go add to render queue, put my render queue down here, and go, remember we talked about this before, I could render as a QuickTime, I could render as a ProRes, but I would definitely want to do RGB. Oh no, can't do that. ProRes HQ. I want to get this RGB plus alpha option. It's not letting me do it. Why not? ProRes 444. Okay, that's changed. Okay, so you've got to browse through these video codec options, DNxHR or Apple ProRes 444, and I want this RGB plus alpha option, because then it's going to render with an alpha channel, which will describe transparency, right? I could say OK to that. I would make a folder inside that project now called something like From AE. That's what I would call it. And I would definitely version this up, because there's going to be multiple versions of this. So I'm going to call it version 1. All right, let's render that. And let's bring that into Premiere. You'll find your own working pipeline. You might find your own system and something that you feel works for you. There's my spinning circles, delete that. There they are. And because they've got an alpha channel, now they have transparency. Yeah. I personally like if I'm working between video and animation motion graphics, depending on the duration of the project, if it's under a minute, I might, or 30 seconds, I might work in After Effects. But if it's anything over a minute, I'm generally building the project in an edit software. Like if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'm editing and I'm creating the final work in Premiere Pro, and I'm exporting the final work in Premiere Pro. So I'm bringing my After Effects animation media into my edit, and that's my final output. And I think that would probably be the case for most studios as well. So if I would advise you guys to think in that way too. By that I mean I would think about bringing your After Effects media into your Premiere Pro project and using that as your final output with your final audio. But you don't have to work that way. Of course, you can go the other way around. Adobe software, they all talk to each other quite nicely, so you might find the other way is easier for you.